Have you ever had a moment where you said something to your adult child and instantly regretted it? For many people over 70, these moments happen more often than they'd like to admit. A single phrase, uttered in frustration or with the best intentions, can cause unexpected rifts in a relationship that's already fragile. Sometimes, that relationship is all we have left, especially when our world starts to shrink. We rely on our children for emotional closeness, companionship, and understanding. Yet, the painful truth is that a few simple words can unravel years of trust. If you've ever sensed your child pulling away, avoiding calls, or reacting with impatience whenever you speak, there's a chance something deeper is at play. The things we say, even if we don't mean them to be hurtful, can linger in their minds and create distance. This isn't about blaming ourselves or feeling guilty, it's about recognizing that some phrases cut deeper than we realize. When we're in our 70s and beyond, every word can carry extra weight because time feels precious and relationships feel more delicate than they did decades ago. In the next few minutes, we're going to explore 5 particular phrases that might be harming your bond with your children without you even knowing it. These are statements that seem harmless or even caring at first glance. Yet, they have the power to sow distrust, guilt, or frustration in the people we love. Stay with me, because understanding why these phrases are so destructive is the first step to regaining the warmth and closeness you've worked so hard to build. By the time you finish listening, you'll know exactly how to avoid these verbal pitfalls and protect the precious connection you share with your family. Number 1. You owe me respect after everything I've done. Many parents over 70 resort to this line when they feel invisible or underappreciated. It's often said in moments of frustration, when you see your adult child ignoring your advice or behaving in a way that feels dismissive. On the surface, it seems like a fair statement. You gave so much, sacrificed through their upbringing, and endured hardships they might never fully understand. However, framing respect as something your child owes you can trigger resentment rather than gratitude. Your son or daughter may already know how much you've done for them, but hearing it framed as a debt can remind them of times they felt controlled or criticized. Instead of strengthening their appreciation, it can spark a desire to break free from a sense of obligation. The moment they interpret your words as a demand, they may emotionally withdraw. What started as a plea for understanding could become a wedge that pushes them further away. Imagine a scenario with Mary, 72, who spent her younger years juggling multiple jobs to support her only son. She rarely rested, put her career ambitions aside, and even moved to a smaller home to afford his education. Now that her son is grown with a family of his own, she feels overlooked. In a heated conversation, she blurts out, "After all I sacrificed, you owe me at least some respect." Instead of eliciting empathy, her son bristles. He's reminded of the pressure he felt to achieve certain milestones or repay her devotion in ways he never found comfortable. This phrase also carries an underlying message: I regret my sacrifices. That may not be what you truly intend to convey, but children, even adult children, can feel guilt when confronted by it. They might question whether you see them as a burden. They might wonder if your love was conditional, hinging on them offering constant praise or deference. Over time, these doubts erode the foundation of trust. Replacing this phrase with something more open can diffuse tension. Instead of saying, "You owe me," try expressing how you feel: "I miss feeling connected," or "I'd love to spend more time with you." Such language shifts the focus from blame to a desire for closeness. Respect grows naturally when people feel valued, not when it's demanded. By avoiding statements that suggest your children are in your debt, you invite them to appreciate you in a genuine way, rather than from a sense of forced obligation. Number 2, you never visit unless you need something. This phrase slips out in moments of loneliness or disappointment, when you notice your child only calls or comes by in times of crisis. It's natural to feel hurt, especially if you recall a time when your home was lively with their presence. But the problem is that saying these words, even if they reflect your reality, can create an accusatory atmosphere that stifles genuine communication. Adult children often juggle hectic schedules, balancing careers, parenting, and personal obligations. When they hear, "You never visit unless you need something," they might interpret it as a guilt trip or an attempt to shame them for not being around more frequently. That sense of guilt can backfire, making them resentful or defensive. Instead of bridging the gap, the conversation can devolve into an argument over who's neglecting whom. Consider Harold, 75, who lives alone ever since his wife passed. His daughter, Lucy, drops by sporadically, mostly when she's overwhelmed by bills or needs a favor. Harold notices that her visits always have an ulterior motive, and each time she leaves, he feels a pang of emptiness. One day, exasperated, he confronts her, "So you only come around when you're short on money? You never care to see me otherwise." Lucy responds with anger, feeling attacked and misunderstood. In the end, both feel worse. The truth is, life's demands can be daunting for younger adults, even if they deeply love and care for you. They might not realize how their actions affect your sense of loneliness. They might also assume you're doing fine if you never voice your need for companionship in a calm, open manner. Blaming them outright for not visiting more can be interpreted as an emotional ambush. Rather than lashing out, try to share your feelings without framing them as an accusation. You might say, "I'm always happy to see you, but I miss you when you're not here. Can we figure out a regular time to catch up?" This approach puts the focus on your desire for connection, not on their failures. By avoiding language that paints them as opportunists, you open a door to more balanced interactions. They might still have limited time, but they'll be less likely to avoid you out of guilt or annoyance, and more inclined to stop by out of genuine affection. Number 3, I'm too old to change, accept me as I am. This statement might seem harmless at first. After a certain age, many people feel they've earned the right to stay set in their ways. There's truth to that, especially if you're content with your routine and values. Yet declaring you're too old to change can send a message that you've closed the door on growth, empathy, or compromise. It can also make your children feel as though any conflict is a dead end. Children, regardless of their age, often look to their parents for guidance on how to navigate new stages of life. When they hear, "I'm too old to change," they might interpret it as a refusal to understand their perspective or adapt to shifting family dynamics. This can be particularly hurtful when they're trying to communicate something important, like a new decision about how they raise their own kids or an issue they have with how you speak to them. Patricia, 74, found herself saying these words to her adult son, who politely asked if she could be less critical of his wife. Patricia had always been vocal about how she believed housekeeping should be done, and she frequently shared unsolicited advice. When her son pushed back, asking her to be more supportive and less judgmental, her response was, "I'm too old to change now. You'll just have to deal with me as I am." This left him feeling unheard, and it widened an emotional gap. The impact goes beyond disagreements over chores or lifestyle choices. It can spill into conversations about health decisions, caregiving arrangements, or financial matters. If your child senses that you'll never consider a different approach, they may stop confiding in you altogether. They might handle important decisions on their own or avoid telling you about major changes in their life. Over time, this diminishes your role in the family, turning you into a distant observer rather than an active participant. While it's understandable to feel you've earned your habits, showing even a bit of willingness to adapt can signal love and respect. Instead of saying, "I'm too old to change," you could say, "I've lived this way for a long time, but I'll try to understand where you're coming from." This small shift doesn't mean sacrificing your identity, it means demonstrating that you value your child's feelings enough to listen. When they see that effort, they're more likely to involve you, respect you, and reciprocate that openness. Number 4, if you really cared, you'd be here more often. This phrase emerges from deep emotional pain. It's easy to look at your adult child's life, busy, noisy, filled with their own responsibilities, and wonder why they don't carve out more time for you. Yet implying that their limited presence signals a lack of caring can spark guilt, frustration, or even anger. What begins as a cry for connection can come across as an accusation that they're failing as a son or daughter. Children may care a great deal but struggle to balance everything on their plate. They might already feel torn between work, household duties, and parenting. Hearing that they would be here more often if they truly cared might reinforce an internal anxiety that they're not good enough. Some react by pulling back further, avoiding the guilt altogether. Others become defensive, insisting they do care while quietly nursing resentment. Consider Lewis, 76, who lives in a retirement community. His daughter, April, schedules visits whenever she can manage, maybe once every 2 weeks. Lewis interprets this as neglect. In a moment of hurt, he blurts out, "If I mattered to you, you'd come every weekend." April, stunned and hurt, tries to explain her packed work hours and her children's after-school activities. But the damage is done. She leaves feeling criticized, and Lewis feels like his pain was dismissed. Though it might seem like a straightforward expression of your loneliness, this phrase can overshadow genuine acts of caring. Maybe your child calls frequently, sends groceries, or handles administrative tasks you find difficult. When you dismiss all that with a single comment about not visiting enough, it can negate the love they are trying to show. A more constructive approach is to express your feelings without questioning their intentions. Telling them you miss them and wish they could visit more often invites collaboration rather than conflict. You might say, "I love seeing you and wish we had more time together. Is there a way to plan a regular visit or a video call if in-person visits are tough?" This stance acknowledges your longing without turning it into a personal indictment of their commitment. It creates space for honest communication about schedules, needs, and potential solutions. In the end, families often find compromise when both parties feel safe to share their limitations and their hopes. Number 5, I won't be around much longer, so you'll regret this. This statement is born from fear and longing. As we age, the awareness of mortality grows sharper. The desire to feel cherished, to ensure that our final years are filled with affection and respect, becomes paramount. However, when you tell your children they'll regret their behavior once you're gone, it can strike them like emotional blackmail. Instead of prompting tenderness, it often creates resentment, anxiety, or a forced sense of duty that lacks genuine warmth. Children interpret this phrase in many ways. Some become overwhelmed with guilt and feel pressured into spending time out of obligation, not love. Others, weighed down by the heaviness of this prediction, might avoid contact to escape the emotional toll. The pain of being reminded you could soon pass away can be so stressful that they'd rather not engage with you than be constantly confronted by what feels like a guilt-laden countdown. Janet, 73, told her son, "When I'm gone, you'll regret not calling me more," after he canceled a planned visit for the 3rd time in a row. She felt overlooked and wanted him to understand her sadness. Instead, her son felt cornered and manipulated. He interpreted her words as an attempt to shame him into compliance rather than an honest sharing of hurt. He grew more distant, secretly harboring anger toward a mother he once adored. This phrase also trivializes the depth of the love that does exist. Even if your child is busy or inconsistent, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't care. By casting their future remorse as inevitable, you overshadow any positivity in the present. The focus shifts to fear and worry, eroding the quality of whatever time you do spend together. A more compassionate route is to articulate your emotions plainly. Telling them you feel lonely or that you miss their presence can convey vulnerability without crossing into emotional coercion. Sharing a gentle hope, "I'd love to create more memories together while we can," may open a door to meaningful conversations about how to prioritize family time. This approach invites them to connect with you freely, fostering genuine closeness. Though fear of the future can be intense, steering clear of tactics that involve guilt or dark predictions can keep the relationship rooted in warmth and authenticity. These 5 phrases might slip out in moments of exhaustion, longing, or frustration, but their impact can be long-lasting. Your children may seem distant or unresponsive, but in most cases, they're juggling modern pressures you might never have faced at their age. Remember that the most important element in your bond is mutual empathy. If you want them to see your perspective, show them you're willing to see theirs as well. A small shift in your language can shift the entire tone of the conversation, turning what could have been a confrontation into a moment of understanding. Each of these phrases can be replaced with a gentler, more open statement that encourages dialogue rather than shutting it down. There is still time to preserve closeness and foster genuine connections, even when it feels like the distance has grown. All it takes is a willingness to speak differently, listen carefully, and care deeply. Sometimes the smallest shift, like turning a complaint into a heartfelt confession, can spark an unexpected breakthrough. If you sense frustration building, remember that your words can soothe or sting. Even if your child seems distant, they might still crave your assurance and wisdom. This stage of life can prove that empathy and growth don't vanish with age. Regardless of past mistakes on either side, what endures is the determination to keep trying. Love can flourish in these later chapters if both sides are willing to step toward each other with open hearts. You can choose now to meet your loved ones with honesty instead of guilt, understanding instead of demands, and warmth instead of reproach. If you do, walls that once seemed insurmountable may finally come down, revealing a bond stronger than you imagined. In that choice, you reclaim power to shape a kinder tomorrow together. Thank you for staying with me through this important exploration. Let this be a gentle reminder that healing within your family is still possible, even if you've said things you wish you could take back. Your voice carries weight, your feelings matter, and so do the hearts of those you love. Strive for honest conversations instead of hidden resentments, and don't be afraid to show your vulnerability. The years ahead can still be enriched with laughter, hugs, and shared milestones. Wishing you the courage to step forward with hope and the grace to welcome each moment you have together with renewed gratitude.